I think it's a great arrangement if we just turn towards each other in a bit of an angle. It'll really help because I'm sure you won't like to get a crink around your neck. So as it is customary, it's going to be ladies first, and it's ladies always and all the time. So let's start with Dr. Sudha Acharya. Dr. Acharya, you worked extensively with the CBSE and with the Delhi government, and you actually devised and helped them draw up the policy. When this thought of Panchakosh came in, what was your thought? And of course, how did you unravel the mysteries of the Panchakosh? So we'll request you to quickly talk about that, please.
Thank you so much, Malini. When we talk about Panchakosha Vikas, which is the soul of NCF 2022, which is talking about foundational years, and all of us here, we know that 3 to 8 years is the prime years of learning, which is very, very important in any human's journey of life. So Panchakosh Vikas जब हम बात करते हैं, so पहला वाला है physical well-being, अन्नमय. So anna is food. So we are not talking exactly about food. We are talking about physical well-being. You know, diet, sleep, hygiene, self-regulation, self-awareness, all these things. Next is pranamaya. Pranamaya is the life energy. You know. Next one is manomaya. In school we deal with this socio-emotional well-being. Then next one is talking about vijnanamaya. That is cognitive development. And the last one is Anandamaya, that is eternal bliss or looking within. So these Panchakos can be a way of life. हमारी वेदास में इसके ऊपर लिखा गया है कि ये हमारी way of life है. इसको हम बहुत अच्छे से NCF में incorporate किया है. When we are talking about whole child or holistic development of a child. So school is a space where not only cognitive capacities are honed, but we are talking about psychological, sociological, spiritual, digital, environmental, financial wellness also. So ये सबको हमने समन्वय करके 3 developmental goals के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं NCF में, जो निपुण भारत में भी हम देखते हैं कि physical well-being जो मैंने बताया developmental goal 1 and developmental goal 2 is effective communication or communicator, and the third one is involved learner, knowing world around us. So these are 3 important developmental goals with which the domains of knowledge, learning and the curricular goals are associated in NCF 2022. So these are Panchakosa to start with.
Amazing. I think we are warming up in the right direction. So I think the audience would also be interested in knowing that when Maslow's theory of the need-based theory is put forth, this Panchakosh is the only theory which even kind of comes close to that. That means Maslow's Western theory of need hierarchy is the only one that even comes close to what we are talking in Panchakosh. Because Panchakosh, the final statement of Panchakosh is self-actualization, which Maslow's law doesn't even reach and talk about. They talk about mechanized learning, it talks about existentialism, but it never even reaches the level that Panchakosh can offer. So if that was the case, Dr. Ashok sir, we have the Bloom's taxonomy, and I'm sure all the educators sitting here would agree with me. We've been so rigorously trained in the Bloom's taxonomy. How is it going to be for us to move from one theory to the other? And how do we embed this beautifully, keeping Panchadi in mind?
Good. Thank you, Malini. I'm sure you have worked very hard on preparing this question. Because the question is very hard. But you have already given a clue to this by giving reference to Maslow. So I will try and create a link between Bloom's taxonomy and Panchadi. So what does Bloom's taxonomy say? It gives us the action verbs of what we want our children to be. So it has got broadly two orders. One is the lower order, in which they have to develop knowledge, they have to understand, and they have to apply. And then there is a higher order where they have to analyze, they have to evaluate, and they have to create. So this is, in the modern parlance, we can say that these are the competencies that we want them to improve, or to learn, or to develop. Where does Panchadi comes is that gives the method or the procedure through which we have to progress in the classroom. So for example, when you go to the classroom, you have to introduce your topic, and you introduce it in a very beautiful manner. And that could be by telling a story, or by giving a context, or you are fond of technology, show them a short video, or you are a data analyst, give them a data and ask them to draw inferences. You are an expert in connecting the past to the present, so you give them a pre-knowledge test or something like that. So that is the introduction. And then you develop your content to let them know how to internalize it. And then, of course, you will give them some practice. You will test whether they are able to apply it or not. And then at the end, if all that is not sufficient, you will take them out, you give them experiential, you take them to lab, you take them to ground, to the sports and all that. And you also give them further reading. So these are the 5 stages. And in the Panchadi terminology, the first introduction part is called Aditi, the second one is called Bodh, the third one is Abhyas, the fourth one is Prayog, and then you come to Prasad, when you take them out. So the linkage between the two is that ingredients of this whole process are given by Blue, and the teacher has to create a very tasty, delicious dish. And then you use the Bloom's taxonomy's ingredients to create your lesson, to design your assignment, assessment, the activities that you perform in the classroom. So that becomes your pedagogical exercises. So that is the connection between the Bloom's taxonomy and Panchadi in my little understanding. So if we have to be a very good dish makers or chefs on the makeshift kitchen of the classroom, Bloom has given the ingredients, and we have to put our own ingenuity and our own creativity and innovation to create something which gives that beautiful, not taste buds experience, but learning experience to the children. Thank you.
Amazing. Ashok ji, who could have explained it better than that? Because at the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy as well as Panchadi, we are talking about innovation, creating, finally taking out the external world. So we were counting the number of firsts that the NPSC has done. There is another number first that is happening on stage today. Must tell you, NPSC holds the... Okay, sorry.
So I don't know what she is referring to, but I noticed it, that you have got 3 generations of chairpersons on the stage of NPSC.
Oh, you absolutely,
and she.
absolutely,
So that,
and I think
but what you said, you tell me.
yes, that was exactly my thought, sir. Because in the national conferences, one of the members and one of us is on stage moderating. Maybe it is the first time the 3 chairs are sitting together to moderate. I think and it's such a possibility. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. Amazing. So as we move down through generations, I think by word of mouth, the Vedas have been given to us by the rishis and the munis. And the word of mouth has been the strongest way by which education has been transacted over generations. And the Indian system believes in it firmly. But over the years, the theme of Smriti, when we talk about Smriti, that has been grossly misunderstood. And over the years, it's converted into rote learning. So when we say Smriti, does it have a larger connotation in the Indian system, or is it just pure rote And are we going to move away from Smriti when we say, let's learn by doing? So let me pose you that question.
Very nice question, Malini. For last 2 days, I think Lata ma'am, मैं and Charu, हम तीनों यही डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं स्मृति एंड रोट लर्निंग. सो मनु संहिता में श्रुति और स्मृति के बारे में बहुत अच्छे से लिखा गया है. Smriti is a way of learning. It can be a methodology of learning. All of us, the way we have been taught. And now it has been very fashionable to say that we are moving away from rote learning or memorization. Memory is a part of learning. Memory is nothing bad at all. There can be working memory, there can be long-term memory, or we say short-term and long-term. But while in the journey of our educational landscape, we have seen that Shruti has overtaken Smriti. When we talk about Smriti, it is Chintan, Smaran, Adhyayan, Prayas, Manan, all these things. So from there, now we are using a word Chintan Shivir. We also spoke about Chintan. Varanasi jayenge and ghat pe baith ke Chintan karenge, aage kya karna hai. All of us principals were talking. So when I talk about Smriti, it is nothing long. When we talk about Smriti ki ek part hai rote, so that may be wrong. But to hone the cognitive capacities, Smriti is a very important tool of learning. So अगर हम गाना भी सीखते हैं, उसमें जो ताल और अलाप है, because I was learning music, so अगर सारे गामा रेगा मापा करके हम गा रहे हैं या जो अलाप है, every day morning हम उठ के रियाज क्यों करते हैं? हमें तो पता है वो नोट्स, क्योंकि to bring in perfection. आज भी हमारी जनरेशन की जो हम लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, शायद जो है टेबल्स और स्क्वायर रूट और द मल्टीप्लिकेशन, it is in our mind. The kind of mental maths we can do now, the next generation is not able to do, because we are of the opinion that जब calculator है, why to tax the brain? That is the new logic which has come. So हम इसमें राजी नहीं हैं. स्मृति is बहुत important part है of our learning, and स्मृति से अगर रोट को हम अलग कर दें, स्मृति हमारी cognitive, सोशियोलॉजिकल, साइकोलॉजिकल और सेल्फ होल चाहिए जो हम बोल रहे हैं, सेल्फ कंसेप्ट और अपनी सेल्फ एस्टीम के लिए भी स्मृति बहुत जरूरी है. सो हम जब क्लास में जाए, सो हम ये स्मरण, अध्ययन, मनन, चिंतन एंड स्मृति के बारे में जरूर बात करें. एंड ये मेमोरी इज नथिंग रॉन्ग, isn't it? अगर रिटेंशन ऑफ लर्निंग इज नॉट देयर, हाउ डू वी अप्लाई? अगर हम सब भूल जाए, वर्किंग मेमोरी एग्जाम के लिए पढ़ रहे हैं, जो क्लास में पढ़ाया गया है उसको रिप्रोड्यूस कर दिए, उसके बाद प्रसार अभी सर ने बताया, टू को क्रिएट, टू को डिजाइन, टू थिंक ऑफ समथिंग न्यू, मूविंग फ्रॉम कंक्रीट टू एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, फ्रॉम सिंपल टू कॉम्प्लेक्स. हाउ डू वी मूव अनलेस हमारी रिटेंशन है? सो स्मृति बहुत जरूरी है.
I think you are taking me right back to the RAM and the ROM, right, of Smriti. When we talk about short-term and long-term memory, I think the contextualization, the examples that Sudha gave was simply bang on, because we are propounding so many theories. We brought in so many terms and jargons, especially after the NCF. And those who've read the NCF document, it's so beautifully written, because it's the vision that was given by the NEP is now ready for implementation through the NCF. So those who've read the document would know that there are so many terms that have now come out from our knowledge system. So, Ashok ji, would it be appropriate for me to ask you, will we lose out in the global scenario? Will the globe and the populace of the world move with us when we use these jargon? And are we on level playing field? And would we be advantaged in some way if we use these? And can we ensure that the globe understands, the populace understands what we are saying, if we go too deep into our roots, can we bring it out to the global world for being accepted?
Yeah, so I think what you are asking is that perhaps the hypothesis that you have is that we are coming out with new words or terminologies or jargon, if I can use that word, and probably the world will not understand it. Is that your hypothesis? Well, so my understanding is that the world knew all this of our jargons much before that we want to know it. You get this point? And the entire, the jargons that the world has produced, they have all borrowed it from us. The tragedy is that we forgot it. You see? I mean, that is what has happened. So this is number one. Number two, there is a clock here, ladies and gentlemen, before us, which is moving anti-clockwise. And this describes what is happening here. You talked about Maslow just now, and Sudha talked about Panchkosh. Has Maslow not studied Panchkosh? Who came first, Maslow or Panchkosh? You see? But he did not study it to the depth of our rishis and munis and our ancestors, and therefore he did not reach up to that level of Anandamaya Kosh. You get my point? So therefore, I think the answer is that we have to be very, very proud of it, number one. And number two, we have to apologize to our ancestors, and we have to confess that we were misdirected, and therefore we went in another direction, and we did not well in these. So this is one. The second thing is, if you let me give you some references to it, just to testify what I am saying. Now the modern jargon is multidisciplinarity. Am I right? And in NEP or NCF, we are talking about the hard separation must go. This is what we are saying. So this is the modern thing. And in our Vedas and Upanishads, multidisciplinarity was the first condition even to study Vedas. So if you want to qualify yourself to study Veda, you have to know phonetics, you have to know grammar, you have to know astrology, you have to know economics. I think that was the shining example of multidisciplinarity. So it was already there. And probably those who are talking about multidisciplinarity, I think they have studied that much before us. So this is the first reference that I want to give it to. The second reference is, and Sudha attributed to some of them. So for example, what do we do when you are going to the children and you are giving them your knowledge or sharing your content? Then there are three distinct methodologies to ensure that at the end of it, children will be able to give evidence of their learning. And what are those? The first is reflection, right? Are you able to reflect? But much before reflection also comes Shravan, that whether you listen to it, and therefore the storytelling comes as the first pedagogical step. And then comes the reflection. And then the third one is, can you dive deeper into it? Which in our, if you say jargon, I said the only correct word to describe it is Nidhi Dhyan. You see? So the first one is Shravan, and the second one is Chintan and Manan, you can call it, and third one is Nidhi Dhyan. So I think that is the only way to describe it. So that is the second reference to it. And I will give you a third reference. And the third reference is, which Adi Shankaracharya has given in his very famous poetry, or a collection of shlokas as we call it, Vivek Chudamani. And in Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya has acted as a disciple and as a guru both. So he asks questions as a disciple, and then he answers it himself as a teacher. So that's a very beautiful narration. And like Deepak ji has suggested us a book, I would also suggest that the Vivek Chudamani we must read as teachers and students. So what he says is, that the condition for a child to learn is that the child must have utmost focus, attention and concentration. This is the first thing. The second thing, the child must be ready to take hardship of learning. The third one, there must be intrinsic motivation. Next one is that all distractions must be kept away. The next one is there must be love and joy of learning. So I think this is the reference that we come from, and all modern psychologies, and then some of them have taken it to another level of neuroscience and developing connections. All of them, in my opinion, have come from these Pramanic references. Okay, and that is why the final answer to your question is the world has accepted it, but we have to reclaim it from them, that it has come originally from us, and therefore for all these years you have not paid us any royalty and you have not given us any patent rights and copyrights. Please do it now. Thank you.
Well said, well said. And of course, when he talks about the pramanas, yes, Ashok. Sure.
Will we be able to drill these jargons, into the mind of these children who belong to the 21st century?
Yeah, so that can be
And the teachers also.
Yeah.
How do you foresee the future?
So I'm eternally optimistic, and I believe that conviction, Asha, आपका तो नाम ही आशा प्रभाकर है, आप आशा भी हैं, आप प्रभाकर भी हैं, so that has to come in us. We have to have that conviction, and that conviction has to come from where? Again, it goes back to them only. That when the Shishyas used to get the total gyan from them, and in their thanksgiving, they used to say, "Oh Guru, you have, now my education is complete, and I have come out with the absolute grace that you exhibited, and we have now complete sovereignty on the self-effulgence of knowledge." What does it mean? It means that you have taken us out of the morass of ignorance. You have taken us out of the forest of only dreaming, the forest of only being tormented, our own ignorance, our own egos, and our own problems. And O Guru, since you have done it, we are giving you salutations. We are giving you salutations. And in Sanskrit they say, Guru Namo Astu, Punar Namo Astu. I mean, that was the place of the Guru. So I think that conviction has to come in us first and not in the Westerners first. That's my answer. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much, Ashokji. And of course, when you're talking about pramanas.
Just one line I would like to add, Dr. That Guru means light. Guru, obviously the person who shows the light. And Kashi also means city of light. So there was a thing I heard, and you could go on the streets of Varanasi and find it, which Morgan Freeman, one of the actors, he went around in a rickshaw in Kashi, incognito, and he remarked that everybody calls each one other person in Varanasi Ka Guru. So Ka Guru, now Ka Guru is everybody is a guru here. There is no chela here. So it's a city of gurus, and that we have forgotten, that we have this royalty thing which you said is very correct. Thank you so much for telling us all this.
Very nice. Amazing. That's a new perspective entirely. And of course, the Upanishads themselves are a collection of the question answers, and the very fact that every Shishya leaves the abode of the Guru saying, I will be the questioning being. I will ask the questions so that I grow every day in my learning. So, thank you so much, Ashokji. From the affective, from the levels and the realms of the higher thinking, let's come down to the mundane and the everyday. As schools, we are brainstorming in all of this. We are talking about all of this. And schools have always been very, very agile, very metamorphic in their change. We were the first to lead, and we've always taken the lead. But what about the university? What about the institutions of higher learning? So, Sudhaji, let's take you through that difficult question. Does an university change at the same speed as my class teacher changes in her classroom?
A very pertinent question. The other day in a conclave, we were talking about whether the students have failed or the system has failed them. So I'll talk about systemic change, which is very frequently happening in educational landscape in India. So now with the CUET and new education policy, we are talking about holistic development, holistic education and all those things. And NEP especially focuses on no hard separation, as Dr. Pandey has already mentioned. But as CBSE schools or as progressive schools, all of us do not make any distinction between science, commerce and humanities. Though parents, they believe in that, we offer any 5 subjects in school. With commerce also the child is taking physics to become a pilot, or the science students are taking legal studies to have different career avenues. But are the universities really ready for them? So they want physics, chemistry, maths, biology, or physics, chemistry, biology only. Or if you want to pursue commerce, so there has to be business studies, accountancy and mathematics, not even entrepreneurship, which is an upset of accountancy and business studies. So there is a distinct gap between school and college, which we need to bridge the gap. So now slowly the higher institutions are coming over to us. In their orientation sessions also, we have been a part of it, and we are telling them, even advising them what systemic changes they need to brought about. Because schools are progressing. As we say, we are pedagogical leaders, we know curriculum, we know pedagogy, we have started implementing NCF and NEP, but are the higher institutions ready for it? Maybe some of the private institutions like Ashok and all those, which are Kriya, Flaps, all those things, they are getting ready. But as we talk about central universities, they are not yet ready. We know what is happening at the real ground. So there is a huge gap between school education and higher educational institution, which we are trying to bridge that gap by sending our teachers and children to see what is the requirement of the universities, or what is the requirement of future world. Are they ready for that? So in school, we have started doing internship, industry interfacing, so that they can very well gel with the higher educational institution. And now we are talking about the credit system also. After class 12, the child can go to the world of work and again come back. So in the school, we are building the profile of the child by exposing them to different vocation, to different profession. Like we were discussing last few days, that how industry interfacing and internship diverging. I mean, they are going to hospitals, they are going to farmland to learn subscription farming, grow my crop, how actually farming is taking place. They are going to hospitality and management, they are going to bakeries, different places. So to just know about different professions so that they'll be ready for life. So education is not as school principals just to complete their class 12 and leave them. It is lifelong hand-holding. So when we are talking of lifelong hand-holding, how they are going to be integrated with the society and financially also. I believe we are growing at a much faster rate than the higher institution. So we need to bring a parity, and the gap has to be bridged.
I'll just come in for a second here. Thank God Honorable Speaker is not here. You know, if he was here, he would have said, please don't talk about anybody who is not present in the house. You see, so we are talking about higher education among the school educators. So having said that, just to give a devil's advocate for the higher education institutions, I think they are also struggling as much as we are struggling, you know.
It's a systemic
yeah,
change.
so it's a systemic change we have to bring in. And therefore, what the policy now suggests is that there should be a linkage between the school, university and industry. And very soon we will see this situation. You see, 10 years before, or maybe 15 years before, barring schools like Sunbeam and all that, universities never used to come to the schools. And now they are making a long queue before the schools, you know. You see? So that changes because they want to connect. Of course, the hidden thing is that they want more recruitment from the schools. That is a different thing. But that is also giving rise to a new situation where this linkage and cooperation and collaboration and probably designing of bespoke curriculum, designing of curriculum for the vocations that the industry would require, and therefore this triangular arrangement among the schools, universities and the industry is taking place at a very, very fast pace, and that will probably address the question that you have posed.
Absolutely. And Ashok ji, the famous tagline of, be.
How should we be handling this situation as far as rural India is concerned?
So,
Half of the population lives there.
Asha, in rural India also, like in schools in urban or metro cities, we have just started building their profiles and all. They have much more life skills than our children. So in rural areas, I have seen they are doing far, far better. Like I am saying, we are sending our children to farming. In Andhra Pradesh and all, as Mali said, beautiful work is done in rural areas. So it's not like that they are lagging behind now. So I find that their children have got much more life skill, social skill, financial skill, which we are teaching our children, but they have ingrained this themselves. It is there.
yeah. Okay, Lata, yeah.
Okay. Malini,
Sure.
do I have your permission?
Absolutely.
All right. So here is the little connect that I thought I'll draw. When we talk of life skills, when we talk of social skills, when we talk of all kinds of skills related to any profession, so all kinds of vocations require all of this. This commonality, if recognized well, I remember the other day when the Director of Education was addressing, he said that they went to Maharashtra, for example, and saw how certain schools are dedicated, when located near farmland, to agriculture and drawing the skills, where all the three threads were woven. They went to the industrial sector, where all three threads. So identification of what skills are required seems to be dominating over what knowledge content. But I think if there's a healthy balance and a deeper understanding, it will be a more practical form of education, and that I think is very critical to
Absolutely.
our understanding.
Absolutely, ma'am.
So, Asha, to your question, in addition to these 2 points, we are sitting in UP, and you also work in UP, and you know it. In UP, the government, Deepak ji, has launched a scheme, one district, one product. And that one district, one product is that every district has identified one dominating industrial potential in that district. And I think that will give rise to bringing talent, curriculum and more institutions and more employment in that area, you see. So for example, Varanasi, the district product is for Varanasi sarees, right? So Agra for shoes and the leather work. So Firozpur for glass bangles, So I think that will take care of the kind of apprehension that you have, which is very valid. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the tagline that the Prime Minister actually mooted, saying let's be job creators and not be seekers, right? So that was a fundamental message given where this entire spirit of entrepreneurship has taken root and children are doing extremely well. Yes.
Economics does work beautifully there, because I am a person of economics. I see that using the locally available resources and the latent resources and utilizing the human resources by skilling them, by training them, and then if one product from one area, it would be beautiful and it can be emulated throughout India.
That brings me to another mundane question. That's 2030 is a target given to us. by the NEP saying universalization, 100% GER. We are already in 2023 and we are still finding our way through NCF. Do you think it's an achievable target, or is 2030 too early for us? It's taken 70 years to look into all of this, and now 3 years' time has gone by with the NEP. How do we achieve it?
Fine.
It's still a draft, Ashok.
Yeah, sorry.
It's still a draft.
It's still a
The
draft.
last 265 pages
But-
is still a draft.
But I think we have to get our facts right here. When we talk of universalization, so we have achieved universalization of primary school already. Okay, it has gone to 96, 97, 98%. So primary school universalization is complete. Now, what happens is that when we go to the university, our gross enrollment ratio in the university today is 26%. Now, it does not mean that we have to have 100% enrollment in the university also. And therefore, there are two issues involved here. First, it is not GER as 100%, it is gross retention ratio, GRR, which has to be 100%. So, for example, between primary to class 11th and 12th, there is a 17% of dropout. And that dropout is for various reasons, the cultural reasons, lack of schools in the rural areas, as Asha was saying, and therefore that dropout rate we have to be very, very careful. Because as on today, as per the last census, which was almost 10 years ago, there are almost 250 million children who have dropped out of the schooling system. And that is a huge danger to the society, because nobody knows where those children have gone. So this is one thing. And the second, of course, these children, even if we know they are not employed, they have not been skilled, they have not been reskilled, they have not been given an opportunity to come back to the system, so policy is talking about them. So that is the second thing. The third thing is, which is very tricky. The government has said that we will enhance the ratio of enrollment in the higher education to the double, which means they will make it 50%. Now that is where my apprehension is, that to bring today there are 40 million children in the higher education, 4 crore, and then 4 crore more you want. So you just double the number of universities and colleges that we have today, that we will require that much number to accommodate additional 4 crore students. Now to have that number and number of universities and colleges, we need to open one university every month. And that doesn't seem to be possible. And therefore, where does the technology come in? Where does the digital universities come in? Where does the skilling and reskilling come
Online
in?
courses.
Where does the entrepreneurship development come in? That is what the crux of the matter is. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think we can go on and on and on, because this is a discussion that is so invigorating. So, one parting line from Dr. Sudha Acharya, and of course, the last concluding line from Dr. Ashok Pandey, because the discussions can go in different directions and it can take us to, right from the Vedas to the metaverse. We haven't even reached there. The next few deliberations are waiting to touch those points. So, Sudhaji, your last parting.
I think we are in the most exciting phase of educational changes which are happening now. So let's be a part of it without having any apprehension. Let be the catalyst of change. And like Sir said, we should have the conviction that yes, we can do. And regarding NCF and NEP, we have got the timeline till 26, 27. So let's work for the betterment of our children, as we are talking about holistic development and holistic education. If we work together, we can bring in some change. We are the agents of change. So I'm very optimistic.
Great.
So thank you, Malini. So two things. First, thank you very much for moderating this session beautifully. So that is number one. Number two, I will combine what Dr. Amrita said and what the honorable speaker said, that all our schools, either we are academically very strong or we are very strong in developing co-curricular activities. When parents come today, they want the schools to do three things. They want academic rigor, absolutely, but they want our children to develop empathy. They want our children to be very, very strong socio and emotionally, so socio-emotional learning. So I think we have to be holistic in our own approach. And what honorable speaker was saying, that Aristotle said long time back that the purpose of education is flourishing of the human being. And then one of his students asked him, what does this flourishing mean? And then he said that this flourishing has got two parts. One is the cognitive flourishing, and the second is character flourishing. And that is what we missed in all these 75 years, that we focused more on cognition, that too not with that much of adequacy, and the character building we forgot totally. I think the policy now is focusing on character building more than anything else, and hence we have to embed that into our curriculum so that we are able to produce not only good technologists but also good human beings. I think that is what the message is.
Thank you so much, Ashok ji, for concluding on the note of the whole child concept, which is what NEP focuses on. So a big thank you to the interactive audience, though it was the first row only. We could have heard you in Delhi too, but वाराणसी के पानी में कुछ है कि आपको क्वेश्चन करने के लिए मजबूर करता है. So I think that's the first row, but I'm sure there are some more questions, and that I'm sure we would take outside and beyond this session. And many aching questions must be. Okay, you've got 5 minutes. I thought we'd run, into somebody else's session. Is there somebody who would like to ask some question of any of these panelists?
So it's not a question, it's more of a observation, as you were saying, sir, that it's not only cognition, character also, and NEP is actually talking more on character. But where is the time for character building when the students are going out of the school system in 11th and 12th standard, because CUET and all these things are coming up, because everyone they are all running against that I should be able to grab the seat that is available. And the mantra for that the parents have, that my child should not lose. Character तो जो होगा सो होगा, पहले वो सीट ग्रैब हो जाए, and वो सीट के ग्रैब करने के चक्कर में स्कूल से बाहर निकाल लेंगे, and all these things. So how do I do that?
I respect you and your sentiments also, but Swami Vivekananda said, मुझे सिर्फ 100 लोगों को दे दो और मैं दुनिया बदल दूंगा. तो आपके पास 100 बच्चे तो हैं कैरेक्टर बदलने के लिए ना, and that should be enough. So this is number one, and number two is we don't want children's extra time for character building. That is where the difference is. Our every interaction, varying from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, should have that element of character building. And that should be part of our pedagogy. So how we discuss it, even if they start taking interest in each other's development, the whole character will start building from there. And therefore, how we connect peer to peer, peer-to-peer learning, peer-to-peer thinking, that itself will be the beginning of it. So I'm not going to give prescriptions here. I'm only reiterating my optimism again. And Charu, I know you are more optimistic than me, but your sentiment is fine. But let's have, with whatever number we have, change the world. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more observations? Somebody else wanted to say something.
Preparation of the JEE preparation or whatever typically happens in the penultimate 2 years or 3 years, right, for the over enthusiasm. You've had the child for 8-9 years, and then we are saying, oh wait a second, I forgot building character past 9 years, I think I should start now. That perhaps is a little delayed thought, right? We shouldn't have waited for the NEP to tell us that character was important, firstly. Secondly, we've had 8-9 years. And in 8-9 years, the amount that can be built will continue through their CUET preparation also. And that's good, because even there, the coach and the teacher should be modeling, as Dr. Pandey said, the kind of character that we intend to have in society. It will continue. And we wish them well for this CUET exams.
Yes, that was a big punch there, right? Okay. So let's hear from someone else. Somebody else put up their hand there. Any comment, any thoughts on, any observations on the session? We'd love to hear from you.
May I? All right. No, I just wanted to say that, this whole discussion, particularly this session, well designed and crafted, is perhaps the key session for this conference. We are right now in a transition stage, moving and trying to, we call it transition, but it's such a beautiful backward movement. You go sit at the Ramakrishna Ashram, you go sit at the Chinmaya Ashram, and they're trying so hard to make sure that all these terminologies, the language that we're using, understanding the Pancha, the Sapta, look at our culture, the Triyo. If you look at all of these, and interestingly, when we say Sanskrit, we don't have a part of speech. You could put it in any order, the words in any order. Each word by itself is a book. So when we talk of Pancha, it takes us half an hour to say what it is. And if that is a whole volume of information. So when we all look at it and this journey, thank God, irrespective of which MEP, we have travelled some. We don't want to call going back to the roots. I think we should say the proper journey has begun. That, I think, if it's well understood, at no stage, I remember long back when Professor Yashpal was answering this question on the Brahmanda, he said, there's no better word to describe that than Brahmand. So if you look at all this, I think the origin, the etymology, the word structure, the language structure, this document has not to be read as just a small paragraph. That paragraph on Smriti is extraordinary in this work, in this whole document, and it really talks of all the way forward to any amount of research. That's just an observation. Thank you.
So let's globalize Indian knowledge system. Again.
And as the Honorable Chief Guest said that it's the time to sow now. Anya's wholeheartedly begin now.
No, it was 25 years ago. First time.
Yeah.
Second time is now.
Second time is now.
Right. Thank you so much to our eminent panelists, and thank you for the beautiful, invigorating session.